Conservative New Media viewers, Jeremy Lin fans around the world, Charlotte Hornets fans around the world, what's up? It's me, PFE, Paul F. Villarreal, the NBA expert. We're here to discuss Charlotte's 106-94 victory today over the Portland Trail Blazers in Charlotte, North Carolina. With the victory, the Hornets improved to 5-5 on the season. The Blazers dropped to 4-7. Just do quick stats. Leading scorer for the Blazers, Damian Lillard, 23 points. The Hornets were led by Nick Batum, 33 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. Al Jefferson, 29 points, 5 rebounds. And two others were in double figures, Kemba Walker and Jeremy Lamb. Jeremy Lin, 5 points in 20 minutes, 2 of 9 shooting from the field, 1 of 4 from three-point range, no free throw attempts, no rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 1 turnover, 1 personal foul, and Jeremy's plus-minus was a +6. The reason why, or what happened in this game, or the reason why the Hornets won, was they just were all over the Blazers. They just kind of were too much for the Blazers early. The Hornets led by 26 points at halftime. And that margin went down to 23 points at the end of the third quarter. And then in the fourth quarter, the Blazers made a huge run. And they got the lead all the way down to about, 6 points. And then Charlotte came, they put the starters back in. And then later, they put in Jeremy Lin, and they were able to hold the lead or kind of hang on against the Blazers. I'm not going to go over all the different statistics. That's kind of what happened in the game. Charlotte was better than the Blazers in this game, and they were much better for most of the game, and then they kind of let their foot off the gas, and the second unit kind of let the guard down a little bit. Portland made a huge run, and then Charlotte was able to kind of regain the momentum just enough so that they could win. Now, Jeremy Lin. Look, this was shaping up to be really not a good outing for Jeremy. It started out well. Even though he's not playing the sixth man role right now. Jeremy Lamb is. So, working within that context, it started out pretty well for Jeremy. And then in the second half, I think it kind of got away from him more. And on one particular play, he was driving to the basket. He had nowhere. Wanted a layup. Then he had nowhere to pass. He turned the ball over. He passed the ball to Portland. They went down and got a three-pointer, and that was a timeout by Charlotte after that. And I think the lead at that point was cut down to maybe 12 or something, 14. And that, after that play, Portland continued and really made their run then. And Jeremy they're playing Jeremy. Charlotte is playing Jeremy a lot off the ball, meaning they're not playing Jeremy at point guard. They're kind of, as people will say, you're setting Jeremy up in the right corner or the right perimeter, and they're letting Kemba or Nick Batum handle the ball more. So, if Jeremy is not the sixth man and Jeremy is playing off the ball, then what does he have to do in order to succeed and in that role? If that's what he's going to be for at least sometimes, or maybe a good amount of the time. I'm not saying that I agree with that role, but what does he have to do if he's going to do well in the role? He's got to make shots. He's got to make shots, and he's got to try to score the ball, and he's got to continue to make assists when he can, which he did tonight. He did have 3 assists to only the 1 turnover, so that's very good, and he had a great assist late to Al Jefferson. Jeremy drove the right side of the baseline, kind of the right side of the paint in the baseline, drew 2 defenders to him, and then whipped a behind-the-back pass with his right arm to Al Jefferson for a nice layup. That was good. So what's was concerning in this game with Jeremy is that to be honest, he's got to make shots, and he's not shooting tentatively. I don't think. Maybe here or there. He's stepping into shots and looking for shots. He's just not hitting the shots. Now again, it's going to fall apart. People go through stretches, but one of the shots that I saw in this game, it looked like he was back to his old form, kind of with a little bit of a hitch in it, a little bit of a mechanical feel to it rather than a smooth, easy stroke. So he's got to keep working on that, particularly if this is what he's going to be. What they're going to need from him in that situation is, again, look for open shots and hit the open shot, or make quick drives and be able to finish those. So that's he's got to keep working on that, and he's got to keep working on shooting. As I mentioned this in previous videos, the one thing I would work on Jeremy more than anything else is hit shots. Also, he's got to manage the game well. Like I said on that one play, it wasn't a bad. It's not like driving to the basket and looking for a layup is a bad play. It's not a bad play. I mean, of course, it's a good play, but you don't want a turnover in that situation. So if you drive into the lane and there's nowhere to, you have nowhere to pass to, try to look past the ball outside. Try to make a safer play, basically. And so if you don't think you're going to be able to drive and get a layup or get an open opportunity, then maybe you don't drive. And that's, again, where the shooting will help. If Jeremy shoots better, he won't have to drive as much. And things will open up. So I was, until about 3 minutes left in this game, I was like, boy, this is not looking good for Jeremy Lin. Even though it's looking pretty good for Charlotte. They held on and they got the win, and they absolutely had to win this game. As we've talked about in the last video. You got to win these games. But then Steve Clifford put Jeremy Lin back into this game with maybe like 3.5 minutes left or 2.5 minutes left. 2 minutes and 41 seconds left. At that point, the score in the game was 100-92. And Kemba Walker had just hit 2 free throws. So B asked me on Twitter, why did Clifford put Jeremy back in? Because he had taken Jeremy back out about 4 minutes earlier in the game with about 6 minutes and 40 seconds left or something after Portland got the lead down to 6 or whatever it was, or 7. I have to hear what Coach Clifford says. Honestly, it really surprised me. I didn't think he was going to do it. My first thought was that he put him in to play defense against C.J. McCollum. C.J. McCollum had just made, I think he had just got a drive, and just made an assist. And we know that Steve Clifford praised Jeremy's defense against New York when he was playing against Calderon. And he praised his defense against, I can't remember the other opponent. But he really liked Jeremy's defense, particularly defense against pick and rolls. And Portland was running pick and rolls with C.J. McCollum in this game. So he might not have liked Jeremy Lamb's defense against C.J. McCollum. Or he might have thought the matchup was bad. Maybe he thought Jeremy Lamb was too tall to guard C.J. McCollum. And that McCollum, being a little shorter than Lamb, would be able to get by Lamb easier than he might be able to get by Jeremy Lin. And it paid off. Jeremy Lin came in. He was fouled by our old friend Ed Davis and Jeremy's old friend Ed Davis. Ed Davis was setting a screen for C.J. McCollum, and he fouled Jeremy Lin on that. So that was a turnover on Portland. And then Jeremy had 2 one-on-one plays, basically, against C.J. McCollum, and C.J. McCollum missed both of the shots. And right after that was when Jeremy got the behind-the-back assist to Al Jefferson. So I don't know exactly why Steve Clifford did it. We'll have to listen. I haven't listened to his post-game comments yet. It's not up yet when I'm making this video. That would be my guess. And I'll say this. I'm sure glad that he did it. And all Jeremy Lin fans should be glad, because it spun the game in a different way than what it looked like. If Jeremy had not come back into this game and the ending was pretty much the same, then this would look a lot bleaker for Jeremy Lin than it looks right now. And look, like we said, people were really mad after the previous game, the game in Chicago. Remember, it's one game at a time. We can't make too much out of one game. But the way things were going in this game, kind of like what's happening in the mental space and just the feel of the game, didn't bode well for Jeremy Lin in terms of his role on the team and getting more opportunities late in games. It's kind of like, well, okay, he's out there, lead goes down from 24 points to 7 points, and his turnover into the three-point shot kind of turned the tide, and maybe he's not focused enough, whatever. But this changed it. And what's great about this from a Jeremy Lin perspective is his defense is like redeeming him. His defense is what got him back on the court. That's would certainly be my guess. And he responded to that. And if you don't know Jeremy Lin, you haven't followed him, when he first came into the league, he was more regarded as somebody who could, I don't want to say a defensive specialist, but something like that. It's kind of what his I think that's kind of what Golden State was hoping he was going to be in terms of what he could be. Now, of course, he's much more known for his offense than his defense. He played good defense down the stretch, and it definitely, like I said, now Clifford can have more trust in him in this situation. I wish Clifford had more trust in him handling the ball. I wish Clifford had more trust in him playing the sixth-man role as opposed to Jeremy Lamb. I went back and I watched the Chicago game again, the moments where Jeremy Lin was in, whatever. Looking at the game again, I personally would have played Jeremy Lin down the stretch of that game. I watched more of what Jeremy Lamb did in the game, and Jeremy Lamb had a number of defensive breakdowns in that game. And Jeremy Lin actually played pretty well. As I said at the time, I understand why Steve Clifford did it. I think he's going for size and he's going for shooting. Jeremy Lamb is a better natural shooter than Jeremy Lin is from distance. But given everything that was going on in that game, I would have played Jeremy Lin. And given that the Bulls lineup that they used down the stretch, I would have played Jeremy Lin. But that's not the case. I'm not the coach. None of us are the coach. Clifford has an idea in his head. He certainly seems to be leaning towards Jeremy Lamb as the sixth man or the finisher. The concept here is P.J. Hairston starts the game. P.J. Hairston starts the game to ease the defensive burden on Nick Batum. In other words, we're not going to have Nick Batum guard Carmelo Anthony in the first half. We're going to let P.J. Hairston guard him so that Nick has more energy down the stretch. But then down the stretch, we switch that. Now Nick Batum is guarding Carmelo Anthony. Now we want an offensive player in the game. And that player is either Jeremy Lin or Jeremy Lamb. Well, Steve Clifford has been going towards Jeremy Lamb since about the third game of the season. And he still went to that tonight. But in his mind, I think he felt that he needed a little more defense against Portland's backcourt. And that's why he put Jeremy Lin back in. Look, for Jeremy to play through this, just keep playing. Be ready when you're called, which is what he did in the last stretch of this game. And just keep working to hit shots. Keep working to hit shots. Jeremy's shots are not that far off. In the last two games, his shots have looked good. They're just slightly off. So he just has to keep working through that. He has to just find a way to get beyond that. The great thing in the last 2 games is Jeremy's only turned the ball over once in about whatever it is, 38 minutes or however many minutes he's played. So that's good. That helps his statistics. That's about it. Look, it's tough. I know how Lynn fans are feeling. They're easily thinking Patrick Beverley equals Jordan Clarkson equals Ronnie Price equals Jeremy Lamb. And why does this keep happening to Jeremy? Just one certain person seems to push ahead of him in every situation. Well, remember, Jeremy doesn't have to stay in Charlotte next year. And Charlotte just signed Jeremy Lamb, which means that the future for Charlotte is probably Kemba Walker at point guard and Jeremy Lamb as a top guy off the bench, maybe the 6th man, which means maybe there isn't room for Jeremy Lin on this team next year in the role that he wants there to be. Okay? So, play well this year. And again, Jeremy coming into this game had a PER of 19.9 or something like that, that's basically the PER he had during Lin's sanity. Now, the PER will go down after today. It's going to go down after today. It's probably go down to maybe like 17 something. Or somewhere like, I don't know, somewhere around 17, 18. That's still a good number. Just keep working within this. Jeremy can't tell the coach what to do. The team won today. Work your role. Just work your role within this. And that's how you're going to get to where you want to get to. Jeremy still has Steven Silas on this team that he's very close with, the assistant coach. I'm sure he still respects Steve Clifford, even though he might not agree with how he's being used. And if you're going to be used as a shooting guard, work on your scoring skills. Work on your shooting. Work on your scoring. If that's the way they're going to use you, if that's the way they want to use you, just be good at that. Like I said, we want Jeremy to be good at as many different things as he can be good at. And right now, work on the shooting. Work on the shooting. Jeremy can play good defense when he wants to, and he played it down the stretch of this game, and he's played it several times this year. The defense is there. He can do it, and he can continue to improve, as he's mentioned that Charlotte's helping him to improve. Ball handling's much better. Keep working on it. He still gets a little off balance on some of his drives, kind of like stumbling forward, but more than anything else, I work on the shooting. If you can shoot, you'll be on the court a lot. And particularly in the modern NBA with the spread out offenses and everybody sits around the 3-point line. So that's what Jeremy has to work on. And look, he's working on it. We know how much he's working on his 3-pointers. If you follow him during the summer and everything, he works like crazy on it. He just has to get to a point in his mind where his newer shot technique is permanent rather than having lapses back into the old technique. And he's got to be confident with it. He's got to feel confident taking the shots and taking important shots. The only way you do that is to do it. You just got to keep doing it. So I would consider today, after everything that happened in this game, I would consider today a success because Jeremy came through in the end what he needed to, even after everything else that happened in the game. So that's it. Let's move on to the next game, and let's, if you're Jeremy Lin, let's control what you can control, which is work your role. Do the best you can in your role, even if you don't like what your role is. Just try to excel in that and look to the future. And as I said, maybe the future isn't in Charlotte. Maybe with the signing of Jeremy Lamb to the Charlotte Hornets, maybe the future isn't in Charlotte. They seem committed to Kemba. Yes, there have been all kinds of comments and speculation in the past that maybe Charlotte trades Kemba and this stuff. Well, maybe they do and maybe they don't. So Jeremy has no, I don't think there's no advantage for Jeremy right now in that discussion. It hasn't, I don't think it's worked out like that so far. So maybe he does have to go somewhere else. That's okay. He likes this team. He can build his skills on this team. He can feel a whole lot better on this team than he felt in Houston and LA. This team can make the playoffs. Make good friends on the team, improve your skills, and go from there. We'll see what happens next summer, but there's still 72 games between now and then in the regular season. So you got to make the best out of it. Okay, next game coming up Tuesday, November 17th here in the United States, so 2 days from now. And that game will take place against the New York Knicks, who, of course, the Hornets have already played and defeated. This time, however, it will be in New York. That game will be at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time here in the United States, which means the game will take place on Wednesday, November 18th at 8:30 a.m. in Taipei, Taiwan, and throughout China. This is the only game that's on the road of, like, the only one game out of the next 7 or so that's going to be on the road. So after this game, the Hornets have a long homestand. Now, some of the teams are going to be playing in the homestand are tough, but some of them aren't that tough. If Charlotte could win that game against New York, that'd be big. I'm sure the Knicks will probably be favored in the game, but it won't be by much. It is a winnable game, although the New York does play well at home. If you can win that game and go above 500, coming home for a homestand, that would really be good in terms of playoff positioning and this type of thing. But look, the last 2 games went exactly as I thought they would go. Thought the team would lose in Chicago. They did. Thought they'd win today, and they did. So here we are, 5-5, basically starting all over again. Going to New York, try to get the win. Just try to get the win, try to get out healthy, and then coming back home the next night for the beginning of a long homestand. So that's about it. That's all I really have to say. Again, I'm interested to see what Steve Clifford says about why he put Jeremy back in the game. We are at where we're at. With Jeremy apparently not being 6th man currently, and him being used a lot as a shooting guard rather than as a point guard. So, but remember, he played shooting guard at Harvard. It's not like he's never played shooting guard. He knows how to play shooting guard. He just has to make it work within this system and keep working on your shot. So, I'm going to try to stay positive and just roll with what it is. We can't change anything. I know there's a lot of people that don't feel happy about what's happened, or they feel like Clifford said one thing and he's doing another. And things are in flux. Clifford is... I think Clifford's doing best that he can. Again, I'm not saying I agree with his decisions, but I think he's trying to win, and this is the formula in his head that he thinks is going to lead to wins, and so this is what he's going with. But Jeremy definitely helped himself at the end of today's game. Now, the rest of the game, maybe not as much, but in the end of the game, yes. So that's definitely good to see. Okay, thumbs up, thumbs down, your comments below. We encourage you to come and join the Conservative New Media Facebook group, and also to come follow us on Twitter. You'll find information for both of those things in the video description below the video player. Also, we want to thank Gary Chen for the artwork you're looking at right now. Gary is a member of the Jeremy Only Lynn Garden fan group. You'll find information about that fan group and Gary in the video description below the video player also. And also in the video description, we'll put highlights information so you can go and check out highlights of this game as well. Once again, I'm PFE Paul F. for the Rio, the NBA expert. Thanks a lot for watching Conservative New Media. We strive to be the #1 Jeremy Lin YouTube fan channel. Jeremy comes through at the end, and Clifford gave him the chance, and so it's a good ending to today's game. let's move on to New York and Jeremy's old stomping grounds, and hopefully the team will get a win, and Jeremy will get a chance to kind of show a little bit more about what he can do. I'm looking forward to that game, and we'll be talking with you again probably in about 48 hours or so, or a little bit more than that, on Tuesday, November 17th.